Hello everyone. So today I want to go over a cool just trick in order to add a multi-material or multicolor kind of flair to the parts you're working on. You may have noticed recently I requested a V2 serial. I completed a V2.4, which has been great. It's the main colors are dark teal and graphite by KVP, and I really like those colors. But then since I have a dual extruder setup with that. So two Mobius Bowden extruders with two Bowden tubes to the tool head with a Y splitter and single extruder. I decided to start playing around and combining two different colors into some of the accent parts. And so today I kind of want to show you the process that I've been going through to convert a single material part like this into a dual color part. So again, I'm not the expert on this, but this is just some cool things I've had fun messing around with, and maybe you'll enjoy it too. So first of all, let's look at this part and kind of see what what I'm planning on doing during this video today. So the main thing, this Voron logo is recessed and it looks fine normally, but since we have the choice of doing two different colors, I figured I'd go ahead and make this logo essentially the second color. And there's a few ways of doing that. So in this timeline here I have one way of doing it. So what I essentially did is I filled in the material with a second body. So there's actually so there's the main part here, but then there's this Voron logo, this text that is the second part. That's one way of doing it. However, I kind of wanted to Steve had suggested that it might be good to kind of keep that recessed look, so that instead of having a flat front face, it has a little bit of indentation and then the second color. And I thought that could look really cool. So I want to show you how to do that here. So I'm going to scroll back in the timeline to the very beginning. And the main thing to do here is, instead of trying to recreate all these features, is we're essentially going to create a punch or a tool that contains the inverse of this logo here. So what we can do is we'll create a sketch on the face, and the dimensions of this don't have to be perfect. I'm just going to make it slightly bigger than the letters itself, so it captures all of this indentation here. And I'm just going to finish sketch. Normally, leaving things like this undimensioned would drive me insane, but in this case I really don't care because it's not going to end up in the final part. Next, we're going to extrude into the body. So I'm going to hit extrude, and then we're just going to select all of these different parts here. And normally if you would go in, it would cut, but we don't want to cut. We want to create a new body. And the key point here is all this has to be done in the actual part that you're working on. So if you have an assembly, you want to go to the actual individual part that you're going to be changing. Otherwise, these bodies will be in separate components, and then the reference axes will be different. And then when you go to slice them, the slicer won't know how they're arranged. But in this case, we're in this base part, and we're creating new bodies in this. So in this case, I want to make sure that, so if we go to cut, you can kind of see, I want to cut back until the entire Voron logo is reduced to nothing. So I'm just going to go 3 millimeters, and then I'm going to create a new body and hit OK. So now this has a new body, but if we remove it, it's just a basic rectangular shape. So what we're going to do is we can use this. I know it sounds weird to have combined, but this is really a add subtract type thing here. So we're going to say we want to cut. And so the target body is the body that we want to change. So we want to change this body 15, which is the tool here, and we're going to change it by the target body, or by the tool body. So in this case, the this main whole part is going to be the tool body. So then we want to cut, and we want to keep the tool because we don't want to get rid of the main part, and then hit OK. So now if we remove this, we notice that there is a tool here, which is actually a bunch of different bodies, and I don't actually like that because it makes it a little more complicated down the next few steps. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to go back one and then we'll re-show this. And in this extrude, we're actually going to extrude two directions. In the second direction, we're going to come out this way, and that's going to give like a base for all these separate pieces to kind of stick together. Then we'll redo that same operation, and now when we hide main, we basically have this punch that does exactly the same operation as was there before. So this is the tool. I'm just going to go ahead and rename this to tool. Now I'm going to hide the tool for a moment, and as we mentioned before, we want to make sure that the second material is recessed slightly from the front face. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an offset plane, and I know this chamfer here is 0.4 millimeters, so I'm going to use that as the reference. I could click here, and that offsets at 0.4, or you could type in -0.4 here. And if we go like this, we'll see. Actually, I need to change my camera back to that. You'll see it is slightly recessed from the front, which is what we want. Now we are going to create the insert. So we're going to sketch on this surface, and then we're going to do the same thing, except as we did before, we're going to make a rectangle, and we're going to put it around the Voron logo. Except the key here is we want to make sure that this is as small a kind of area as possible, but it also has at least like a perimeter or two around the edge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dimension each of these to be 0.8. 0.8 off of that wall, 0.8 off of that wall. Let's see here if I can zoom in, 0.8 off of that. And then the final one, I'm just going to do 0.8. Sorry, just a second here. Why is that not letting me do that? Can we do that? Try that. There we go. I don't know why it wasn't liking it before, but there's 0.8. So now we have two perimeters around the entire kind of logo here. You could make it smaller if you wanted, but this is what we're going to do right now. So we'll finish the sketch, and then we want to extrude this back. So I'm going to click and hold, select the profile, and I'm going to extrude it backwards. And what we want to do is we want to make sure that it extrudes back far enough that, let's see here if we can do this. So we want to extrude it back far enough so that essentially there is a layer or two behind the very back of the Voron logo here. So I'm just going to do 2 millimeters for now and hide, let's see here. Oops. So see what I did there? I was supposed to do new body here. New body. Okay. I'm going to hide that body again. And then I know that the distance from here to this plane, if it lets me select it, just to that vertex, is 1.6 millimeters. So by selecting 2 millimeters, I get 1.6 plus 0.4, which is essentially 2 layers. So that's perfect. So we'll keep it like that. We'll hide that plane, and we'll actually hide the main body now. So I'm going to rename this as insert. I'm going to show that. And then we have the tool as well. So we have two bodies that intersect. And now what we want to do is use the tool as a punch, basically, to subtract the logo from this insert. So we're going to use the combine tool again. And we're going to do cut. So the target body is the body that we want to change, which is the insert. The tool body is the tool body. There we go. We're going to select that. Then we'll hit OK. Now, if we hide the tool, we have this logo right here. We didn't have to do anything. And again, there's 10 million different ways of doing this. However, this is kind of cool because especially if it's a complex logo or something like that, and you want to save it, you know, this will save exactly the same stuff. So now we'll add back that main body. And you'll see now they're both coexisting here. So if we turn back on the origin, and we're just going to use a section analysis here, you'll see right here that they're both intersecting. So that would be bad because you'd have both kind colors trying to print in the same region, and Prusa Slicer won't know what to do. So we'll do one last operation, which is, I'll hide the, okay. The last operation is to subtract the insert from the main body here. So we'll do one last combine. The target body is the main body that we want to operate on. The tool body is the insert, and then we'll cut. So now, if we do that same section analysis, you see that there's two separate bodies here. They don't interact at all. But each line is perfectly against each other, so they're perfectly aligned. So now, when it prints, it'll print, this second color on the inside, which will be great. So, for instance, if we wanted to make the insert black, let's see here. My appearance is plastic, opaque, black. It could look like that, which would be really cool. So that's one way of doing it. So that is fairly complicated, but you can do it yourself. The other thing that I've been doing a lot is a lot simpler than that, and that's just adding a stripe. And stripes are kind of cool because, for instance, this part it prints. Let's see if I can rotate it around here. So it prints like this, with this face on the build plate. So if you create a stripe in this direction, you'll just have one tool change at the beginning of the stripe and one tool change at the end. So that's not a lot of extra wasted filament in the purge operation. So I've been adding stripes along, like parallel, essentially, to the build plate surface. So what I'm going to do here, you could kind of do a similar operation to what we did down here, up here. However, I'm not going to do that because, again, I don't want a ton of filament or tool changer swaps, and since this logo goes across a lot of different layers, there would be a lot of different swaps back and forth and a lot of wasted filament. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm just going to delete this. I'm just hitting the delete key. And then I'm going to slice this body, and I'm going to create three separate bodies here for the different colors. So what I want to do first is I'm going to go ahead and create an offset plane from here. Let's just say I want this to be 4 millimeters away from the back surface. And then I've been using 4 millimeters for the stripes. So again, I'm going to move that 4 millimeters that way. And then this is the exact same type of operation as before. So we're going to use the split body tool. We want to split the main body. We want to use the splitting tool of the plane, and we're going to hit OK. And then we'll do that one more time. Split body. We want to split this back half, and we want to split it with this plane. And now if we hide the planes, we have, if we go through here, there's these two separate bodies in addition to, let's see which one, this main front one. So what we can do then is in the slicer we can essentially apply a color to that, and then we get our part like that. So let's go ahead and export these quickly. I'll do that quick, and then we can import it into Prusa Slicer. Okay, so now we're in Prusa Slicer, and the key point here to remember is that you want to open all of those bodies at the exact same time. So we'll hit the plus button here, and then we'll select all of these different bodies, and we'll hit open. And since we're configured for a multi-filament printer right now, it's going to ask if we want to import it as a multi-part object. And what this does is it aligns all of the bodies with the same reference plane, so they all end up perfectly aligned, so you don't have to do that. So we'll hit yes. And then I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to take this and I'm going to place it on its face because I did not rotate it in the slicer. And then here we want to make sure that the colors are the correct. So we have all our different bodies here. We want to make sure that the colors are assigned correctly according to our two colors. So in this case, the stripe's correct and the main body is correct. However, the insert is not correct, so the insert needs to be the darker color, which is perfect like that. And then the caps here, let's see, this one, needs to be the lighter color, and then this O here needs to be the lighter color as well. So there we go. So we'll go ahead through slicing settings a bit later, but there's how you get the stripe and everything like that all aligned in the same part, and then when you print, you'll be able to get it exactly how you want. Let's just quickly look at the sliced G-code here just to make sure. So we had the first few layers with the one color. It switches to that insert. You'll see it's pretty close here in the boundary. Probably if we redid this, we'd want to kind of cut some back on the insert here to make sure that this is a smooth filament path, because this little point right there might show up on the outside surface, which would not be ideal. So that's something to be aware of. But we keep going up through. That's good. And then here's our first layer bridging, and then 1 second layer right there. And then it switches back to completely the base color until it gets to this accent layer right there. And then it switches back to the base color. And that's it. Well, I hope you enjoyed watching that and that was useful. And I look forward to seeing your multicolor prints in the future. Thank you.